Dan, I just flew in from Finland, and boy, are my arms tired.
Your arm's tired. What?
Yeah, it's one of the classic jokes of all time. I just flew in from LA, and boy, are my arms tired.
Oh, I get it now. I was just kind of still caught up in that, your adventure over to Finland. Wow, that was
Yeah. hmm
something.
Yeah, that was my first time out of the country. However, I did go to this exotic country one time before named Canada. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, yes, I
Uh,
have. I've
yeah.
been there myself.
Yeah, we drove across the border to Niagara Falls, and then we drove back. And that was before the that was before the passport requirements. So we just drove across and came back. But this was my first time out of the country.
Wow. And
Yeah.
what a place to go. So, yeah, how did this all come about? Or like what I mean, just, or can you disclose that? Maybe I should ask, is that classified?
Yeah, I have no secrets. Maybe that's my problem. I just share everything that I have here. So I was invited over by the Yapa team. And obviously it has a lot to do with my channel and the Japa processor. And that's when the moment I say that, Dan, I just get all scatterbrained because I think of all of the circumstances and all of the things that had happened by what I would call happenstance, by chance, and they all commingled to, for me and my wife to fly to Finland for a week. I
Wow.
just I just can't believe I just so I still have the majority of the people in my life don't know about YouTube. I don't know why. I just haven't told anyone. So like my sister, her family knows. I still have friends that I'm very confident haven't a clue. And when I tell them, about I'm going to Finland and the reasons why, they just look at me like I have two heads. So I just, whenever I start telling the story, I just start laughing, and then they look at me and they start laughing because they don't know why I'm laughing, and it's because I'm trying to collect my thoughts and trying to summarize in a coherent manner, everything that had occurred to get me from here to there.
Yeah. Put the
Yeah.
perspective into it, like how, because yeah, who would have
Right.
thought 2 years
Yeah.
ago when you bought your Yappa? Or was it
Oh,
2 years ago? Is that
yeah.
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 In
2 years, few months. Yep.
yeah, in 2 years time, you'd go from buying a Yappa Firewood Processor, starting a YouTube channel, and now having flown overseas to the factory where that processor is produced.
Yeah. And the, they rolled out the red carpet for us. When I say me, I mean us, my wife and I. We were originally scheduled to go in the spring with my daughters. They were going to go along too, but there were some scheduling things that happened and it got pushed back to the fall. And both my daughters didn't want to miss college. So it was just my wife and I went. and we flew over with Bob Nelson from Metza Machines, and he is uh, the United States importer of the Japa processors. And he came along with us, and he's awesome because he's been there before. And it, part of it, there is an overwhelming element to it all because everything's different. The signs are different, that you don't know where the bathrooms are. The bathrooms look different. It sounds weird, but it's true.
That's important to know where they are.
Yeah, and so it would be like if you've ever flown on vacation to a different city, like if you flew to Denver. I've never been to Denver before. So you get your rental car and there's like this beehive of activity with all the cars speeding around the airport and pulling out
Yep.
of parking decks. And you're in a strange city. You don't know where you got to turn. You're trying to read the signs. You're trying not to run into stuff. Try doing that in a foreign country where all the signs are in a language that make no sense to you. So,
Right.
and I was the passenger, and that's, I'm just saying, there's that level of overwhelmingness about it. And of course, I went there with the intentions on filming and doing videos. And I think my videos look nice. They've been well received. But when I watch them again, gosh, I'm so disappointed in myself because I missed so many opportunities to like do something cool, or show something cool, and I didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can imagine though that, like you said, there was a lot to take in. It's a
Yes.
lot going on. And I'm sure there was a certain level of, you felt like you needed to kind of uphold a reputation because you are a YouTube star now. When you're walking in there and they're rolling out the red carpet, hoping that they're keeping up their reputation of graciously welcoming you to the
Yeah.
country. So yeah, that could be a interesting little dynamic going on.
I don't, I don't, I don't know this as a fact, but I guarantee you that I'm correct. When, when I toured the Japa factory, you are immediately impressed with how clean and orderly everything is. And I am confident it was not a dog and pony show. That is how they are every day. It's just the way they produce. When I was a regional manager for an auto parts chain, you would make a surprise visit in a store and it was a train wreck. And then, or you go to, or like the store knows that you're coming to visit, and you
Yeah.
walk in and the store's just like a Taj Mahal because, it was a dog and pony show. We said, they would just, they just, instead of taking care of the customers, they were cleaning their store up so it looked good for the brass, the corporate brass coming in. So that was not the case at the Japa factory. It's just the way they are. I was totally impressed with the workflow and the motivation of the employees and the pride that everyone had. When I was like, my one, the person who took me around the most was Lowry, and he's just a passionate team member.
Yep.
And for me, that's good enough. That's all I need to know is when you have a passionate associate that I read so deeply into that, because you could have the greatest employee in the world, but your organization stinks, and you can see that it brings good people down. But in this case here, everyone they were just passionate teammates. I had a blast there.
Yeah, it really looked like you said, like the attention to detail and the workflow, the stock, the inventory of what they had on hand. It looked like everything ran very smooth. And I was surprised at in your video. Well, first of all, did you end up getting two questions for you here? First, did you end up
Okay.
actually getting any of the parts that you stuffed into your coat trying to steal? And then were you also impressed with the amount of robotics used for like the welding?
Yes. So I did not steal anything. Okay. It's not saying that I wasn't trying, but Lowry was bird dogging me the entire time I was there. So frustrating. As for the robots, I saw four of them. I got a little bit too close to the one. I didn't know it, but they have like this they got like the line of death there. If you step 1 foot over it, it shuts everything down. And I just walked into it, and the robot just came. The robot spun around and stared at me with these glaring red eyes, and I could see its hand reaching for its laser. Is going to zap me or something. Uh, yeah, so that it's just fascinating to know just how precise everything is. I guess it's probably if you see it every day, it's just the way it is. But I mean, they lay like these boxes on this jig, and then that's it. They push the go button, and then this robot just starts welding it like it knows like what it's supposed to do and how much weld. And yeah, that was really cool. I I can speak from experience with both of the Yappas that I have owned. I have always admired the welding on it, because when you're around machines and stuff, you see some good welds and you see some where you're kind of
Right.
scratching your head
Yep.
at it. And I'm not a welder. I've welded before, but I'm not a welder. But my standard has always been, if I feel I could weld better than what I'm looking at, then it's a bad weld. And yeah, the welding is just top notch. So the robots are really, really cool.
Did you
Uh,
know before that like you mentioned seeing the welds on your machines, did you know that those were done by robotics, or were you under the assumption that was a human welder?
yeah, I don't know. I just never even considered it. So it was neat seeing them because I've seen them on TV before,
Yep.
but I've never seen one up close. And it's just, I mean, you could stand there and look at it all day. It's kind of fun.
Right. But now
Uh-huh.
you're like, "Oh, so this is why all these welds are consistently exactly the same on every part of the machine because they
Yeah.
all are programmed to
Hmm.
be exactly that, consistent."
But they did have a number of, it just sounds funny saying this, human welders, ones that get paychecks and provide for their families. Hey, I grew up in a steel town, so it's a sore subject for me here. But but there were a number of people that were welders. I guess it was just something about the way it was welded or something, but they did it themselves. And there was a number of people there too. I saw probably, I don't know, 12 employees. I don't know if I saw everyone, but he had said I think they employed 20. It is, I wouldn't call it a 24-hour facility, um, but their robots are 24 hours.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the factory that you were in, though, that's not where they're fully assembled, right? They go to another, is that right? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
the first one that we were in, um, that was the weld shop, and all that does is weld. So all the pieces are put together, and then once they're welded, they send them out because they had multiple factories where these firewood processors are built, put together. So the 365 and some of the hacky pilky processors, I'm not familiar with their models, were at the factory that we toured, the second factory. The 405 and the 315 are made at a separate facility. They're assembled there. And then
Hmm.
he said they had a fourth, and I think that might be where the Palax. I call it Palax. They call it Palax. Palax. They're really
Hmm.
cool machines looking too. So we went to the 365 because it's like 3 miles down the road from the weld shop,
Yep.
and it just made our day flow nicer. But and I kind of made a joke about we were putting on my safety vest and he opened the door. It really, I got that um, Dorothy in Munchkin Land kind of feel, where she
Yep.
steps out of the cabin, that's in black and white and steps into the color of Munchkin Land. It was almost that same effect. We were standing in this reception area. Yeah, it's just carpeting and some end tables and stuff. And when he opened the door, it's just bright, and the bright red of the machines. It was just a beautiful sight. And that's what I decided to make that the title of the video.
That was a good one. That was,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the one thing I found interesting was to find out that they had multiple factories. Like I was under the assumption it was, but they're
right.
they're a pretty big deal then. I mean, they're really putting out the processors.
Yes, they are. They are a major league corporation, very well respected. I would suspect that every citizen in Finland who's familiar, with the timber industry knows about Japa. It's probably on the same level in Finland as like Bobcat or Caterpillar is
Yeah.
here in the United States. Generally speaking, the timber industry in Finland is much bigger than it is here in the United States. Probably, obviously you got the size of the country and it's more specialized with timber and their forests and stuff. But good heavens, I probably saw 100 semis on the highway just hauling logs. And I saw probably 15 plants, factories, whatever they were doing with the logs. Just, and I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of logs, all just neatly stacked up, getting ready to be processed into something. So, the timber industry there is just a much bigger contributor to the nation's wealth,
Yep.
than here, and that's why I think too. I was shocked at how many manufacturers there are in Finland. That make other stuff. Not just firewood processors, but I mean like harvesters and those heads that go on like a excavator. That cut down trees and
Oh yeah.
and lays
Yep.
them down. Yeah, just I'm serious. It was a timberland Disneyland is what it
Wow.
was like. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I wonder what then. Do you think most of those, like the timber industry is like paper, or do you think it's a lot of firewood? I mean, that's what I was wondering. Like you had mentioned that you saw all those trucks of logs, but like where were they
Yeah.
destined for?
Well, so this is where I feel like I let myself down and I let down my viewers, because these are the kind of questions that I don't know the answers to. Like someone asked me, do they have a problem with their Honda engines? And I was like, gosh, why didn't I think about that when we were over there? I would want to see the shelf that had all the Honda engines on them. I just
Yeah.
didn't think of it. So I forgot to find out about exactly what is being made with all of these logs. Are they being exported and stuff? But I will say that firewood is a major industry there. I think the majority of the houses heat with wood to
Yeah.
some degree. Yeah. And then what I had learned too, when you start getting out in the country, all the houses have their own saunas, and a lot of them are heated with wood.
Oh,
Yeah, the
interesting.
sauna is the national pastime in Finland.
That
Where yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
where
Yeah.
where my pastime is laying on the couch. Theirs is
S-
sweating in a sauna.
Sitting in the sauna sweating. So you toured the Yappa factory. What else were some highlights from this international vacation slash business trip slash celebrity tour?
the the Finnish National Timber Show, which was like what we are calling the Paul Bunyan Show down here in Ohio, which is a regional event. It's like the Paul Bunyan Show on steroids. It's probably, I won't say it's like 100 times or 10 times. It's probably 3 times bigger than Paul Bunyan,
Wow.
noticeably bigger, noticeably bigger, much more involved. And that's when I had learned that there's all these manufacturers in Finland. I never even thought of it. All these,
Hmm.
I can't tell you the names now because I can't remember them. But just with Lowry, who I was with, was pointing all these machines out to me. They're all made in Finland. What they had going on there that we don't have at the Paul Bunyan Show. The Paul Bunyan Show is our timber industry show for the region out here. It's like a big deal in Ohio. They had the harvesters from the timber industry, these big machines, something that you saw out of the Terminator, at the beginning of the movie. Just these big machines that just drive over all kinds of garbage in the forest, and they just load up with logs and drive them out. And we were way, way, way back in the forest. If the show is at what we would think is like a county fairground, we were a mile deep into the forest, and that's when you really appreciate the Finnish forests. They're beautiful. Their forests are managed, and like if you want to harvest a bunch of trees, you just can't go cut them down. You have to propose a plan, and part of that plan is reforestation.
Yeah.
So all of these harvesters, these groups that cut down trees, they got to plant new ones, and they all grow. You just got to look at these trucks of logs. They're just gorgeous. They're just long and straight. And I saw mostly spruce and beech. But when we were walking through town, we went through this courtyard where their church was, And there was these two big trees, and I'm looking at it, they were both elm trees. I was surprised. They
Wow.
weren't like American elms, but they were unquestionably elms. I took pictures of them. I'll show them to you sometime.
Nice. Yeah, I always thought there was a
Yeah.
lot of birch trees over there. The,
Yeah. Birch and spruce. They're
yeah.
all, geez, I'm serious. They're all like 8 inches in diameter, just straight as an arrow.
That was my next question. It always seems like all of the trees are always like uniform in size. Like it's
Yeah.
all the same.
Well, that's what you get with forest management. So these trees grow pretty fast, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think? 40 years maybe, where they've been cut down and then reforested, professionally done, and they've got appropriate spacing,
Yep.
and the species all make sense. So they grow in harmony, and they're just gorgeous, beautiful.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the smells of just walking into that forest, I can still smell it. It's just beautiful. Yeah, I had a lot of fun there. But I will also say this about Finland. Okay, I'm just a simple guy from Northeast Ohio. Um, you go to Europe. Okay, it's exotic, Europe. You never been there before, and everyone's speaking a foreign language and stuff. But there were times when I was in Finland, when I'm just looking out the window or something, I felt like I was in Ohio. Very similar topography. Just everything's just grass and trees, and but the forests there are much much more beautiful than ours.
Yep.
But I didn't see any mountains or anything like that. I just felt like I was in Ohio. Driving down the road sometimes, when there's no road signs with foreign languages on them, you think you're in Ohio. Except there's no potholes in the road.
Now, do
Um,
they drive on the left side or the right? Is it the same?
no, they're normal. They drive on the right side.
Drive on the right side,
And
steering
yep,
wheel on
just
the
like us. Yep,
left.
everything's just like us. It's the
Oh,
exact same cars, except a lot of their cars had different names. There was like some Volkswagens over there had different names I'd never heard of before. But I saw Mercedes and Fords and BMWs. I saw we were at this gas station, and in comes a 1967 Chevy Impala,
wow.
which if from where I live, it was made just right down the road from me in Lordstown, Ohio. So that was kind of cool. I saw a number of classic American cars over there. I saw some old Cadillacs with tail fins, some classic Chevy vans,
Nice.
just makes you wonder how they ever wound up there.
Did you ever driving around see any roadside firewood stands?
No, I did not.
So their
I
firewood industry has not gone to that level yet.
well, I think probably because firewood's not a novelty there.
Oh,
Did that make sense?
yep.
It's like everyone has it. It's a big deal for them. It's a way of life. I saw a lot of producers. I saw a lot of firewood yards, and I saw a lot of firewood going down the road, in the back of a truck. Like the trucks just had these gigantic cages, and they were just filled up with firewood. So I saw everyone had firewood. Every house you drive by had firewood.
But all for heating and keeping themselves warm in the winter.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. There's probably not. Now that's because we were mostly out in the country, so we weren't in the city or in the suburbs. I didn't even get a chance to really even study that much. We landed in Helsinki, which is on the very southern tip of Finland. We drove 3 miles due north to a city on the map. It's pronounced to me Jyväskylä. But when you say that you're going there, they look at you like, where is this guy from? It's pronounced Jyväskylä, which,
Ah,
whatever. Well, then maybe you should spell it that way, is
yeah.
what I was thinking. So then that was like our home base for the week. And then the next morning, we drove another 2 hours due north to the Japa factories. And how you pronounce that city name, I don't have a clue. It's got a lot of consonants in it, not very many vowels.
And a lot of letters with 2 dots on them.
Yeah, I
Whatever
told
that
him
means.
we stick with the letter I. We just have put one dot over top of our small I. Yeah. What I had also learned too is the Finnish language is practically impossible to learn. If you're not raised there. So the Finnish language, and you can Google this. Google the most difficult languages in the world to learn, and like Finnish is number one. Like Finland and Sweden are next door neighbors, and they can't understand each other. The languages are completely different. And Sweden, though, shares more of its root with like Norway and others. Finland has nothing in common with any other language at all. Nothing.
Wow.
So like, yeah, words don't even have like any similarity to them, like, with English and Spanish, mother and madre, that kind
Yep.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Finland, nuh-uh, there's no, and that's why it's such a very difficult language to learn. But everyone over there spoke English to some degree, some better,
Yeah.
some
Or
not as good.
they could at least understand you and know what you were asking or
Yeah. Uh-huh.
speaking.
Yeah. And so I think the typical Finn, I don't think I'm speaking out of character here, and I don't think anyone would debate me. They are known to be introverted. They like from my research there, I read a couple articles where they said don't feel like they're being rude to you because like you walk in the mall and you make casual eye contact with a stranger coming the other way, you smile and head nod or something. That doesn't happen in Finland. So, no one's, there's not a lot of small talk, and that's what Finns are famous for. Is they're very direct and to the point, and like some people interpret that as being rude, but that's just the way they are.
So the people are straight, direct, and to the point. You're traveling all
Yes.
over. What did you eat? Like, what is the food like? Is the food different?
Yeah.
I saw they had Dr. Pepper.
That took a lot of work to find. I'm here to tell you. We probably stopped at 10 different locations before we found the Dr. Pepper. So that was a nice pick me up. I would generally say that the Finnish food is pretty bland. They don't have a lot of salt in their food. Like we went to Burger King and I got a Whopper and it looked just like a Whopper, everything about it, but it just tasted bland. And it finally, I figured it out that they didn't have any salt. Um, the the soda, your pop over there, even the Dr. Pepper, the Pepsi, the Coke tastes a little different. And they don't have high fructose corn syrup in their
Oh.
beverages there. So where I'm getting with this though, Dan, um, I am telling you, I did not see an overweight person the entire time I was in Finland.
Wow.
Um, I really do think I was probably the heaviest person in that country while I was there. And that's what I think a lot of it is their diet. I think they eat more fish and less red meat and less processed food. The hotel we were staying at for our continental breakfast in the morning had cold cuts in it. They
What?
had like slices of cheese and ham. Uh-huh.
Oh.
Oatmeal, that they call it porridge, and it had no sugar in it. Everything
Oh.
was just everything was just kind of bland.
Oh.
And I don't mean bland as in that's bad. And
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
that's probably why they're just so in good shape and thin.
Yeah.
Big difference from the United States. I mean, close your eyes and be in the Helsinki airport and then go to the Chicago airport and look at the difference. You know, I'm serious. It was almost a motivator for me to eat better when I got back here to the States. Cause you see,
Yeah.
the food, the industries that we support here in the United States are killing us. The
Yeah.
fast food industries and all these foods that comes in boxes and stuff. It's not healthy for you on the long run.
Yeah. Well, so that covers the food consumption. What about the beverages? Adult beverages. Were there any? Did you do any sampling? Did they have Miller Lite? Shibe would probably want to know if they had Miller Lite before he went over.
Yeah, I did not see any American beer. I
Oh,
saw the American beverages, like pop, Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Sprite. Monster, that Red Bull stuff.
Captain
I did
Morgan.
not see any. I didn't go in a liquor store. I didn't see. I saw a menu and it had Johnny Walker,
Oh, yep.
Scotch on it, but I didn't see any American. Well, Johnny Walker's not American, is it? It's made in England, I thought.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't see any United States based brands in booze.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing a single person smoking while we were there.
Oh.
Um, I the city that we were staying in, everyone had bicycles. Everyone was out and about like that. A lot of people walking on the street. That town that we stayed in is largely a college town, and so there is like a younger population there. But still, everyone had bicycles and they were out, walking around like that.
Yeah.
And then they have trains. Like we were driving to Helsinki on our way back, and we got passed by a train going like 700 miles an hour. Yeah, so you could probably, depending on where you live, you wouldn't need a car. You could just use public transportation.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Hmm. Um, I did some asking around, and this is an unscientific survey, but from the people that I spoke with, so they are a socialistic democracy. They have free health care, free education. All males at 18 they have to serve in the military. And I think there's different degrees that you can enlist with that. Um, you have a choice of college or vocational training, I think, which is paid for uh, by the tax dollars. And he, the people I spoke with, they said that income is taxed anywhere between 30 and 35% of your income. So that's kind of similar here to the United States. But he said that sales tax there is like 14%.
Ooh.
And that's anything from like a candy bar up to a car, I guess.
Yep.
I didn't get into it with property tax or anything like that. But he said, that their challenge right now, which is the same thing that we have in the United States, is we have a large population of elderly, our baby boomers
Yep.
that are getting older, they're retiring. So that stresses their, their social system. Like with our social security, we got a large population of retirees and a smaller population of people paying into the system. He says they have the exact same problem, but they also have more services that are, given to their population than we do here in the United States.
Yeah.
He said the way that the government has been making up the differences with fines, speeding tickets and stuff. Speeding tickets there are based upon your income. So if like a broke college student gets $100 speeding ticket here in the United States, that's that's like a whole month's salary for him, versus like a CEO of a corporation, a $100 ticket that means nothing to him or her. But it's based on your income. He said that there was someone in Finland who got a speeding ticket and it cost them $35,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So so percentage of so then whatever your income is, the higher your income, the steeper and more expensive your fines
Yeah.
are. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh
There's
my
some
god.
kind of a formula involved with that, but it's based on income, you know.
Wow.
And then the other thing too was their taxes, you know, I don't know, our taxes are kind of bell curved where, the low income people spend less in taxes and it starts going up. And
Yep.
then when you start making some serious money, you start paying less and less tax percentage to your income. I think over there it's a linear um, arc with, the more money you make, the higher tax bracket that you get into.
Yep.
Yeah.
The more you
And
make, the
that's,
more you pay.
yeah. So that's how they do it. And that is, I probably got all of that wrong. But the reason I was asking him these questions was I had saw a meme on Facebook saying that people in Finland spend 95% of their income on taxes. And he said that's garbage. He said,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, he says that's garbage. That's not true. But
Yeah.
they do spend more on taxes than what we do.
Right. And it
Yeah.
all is based on like if you want to, like if you go to buy a TV, it's going to cost you way more because there's a higher tax. So you're spending
Yeah.
money. That's where you end up spending or being taxed on.
Uh-huh. And see, that's what I was wanting to know more about. Like, well, what about if you want to sell a house? What if you want to cut down a tree on your own land? What if you want to put performance parts on your engine? Are
Yeah.
you allowed to do all that stuff? We're here, usually there's nothing that says that you can't. you know, you just do it.
Right.
Those kind of freedoms. So I didn't get those kind of questions answered. That's what I'm just saying. There was a part of me, Dan, that was just overwhelmed with everything. you know, I didn't know which bathroom to go into, so that's the level I was at.
Well, I can imagine though that it would be well, like you said, I mean, it's just a great opportunity. I mean, you're traveling to another country to see things that
Yeah,
is of your interest, and I would be overwhelmed too. But now,
yeah.
when you go back, you'll be more prepared.
Would I ever go back? Absolutely. But I also have a business to run, and it was fun being over there, but that also meant that I wasn't selling anything back home. The income goes to zero. So that I gotta look at all of this stuff, reasonably here going forward. But then again, no one may ever call me again. But the fact that I had this opportunity was huge. It really has given me more confidence now. Like if I wanted to go to Europe, with the family, I think I could do it. To where before it's kind of scary and I never get the courage to go. The one place I always wanted to go, I want to go to Amsterdam because I want to go to the Anne Frank Museum. That's on my list of
Ah, nice.
my bucket list. I have to see the bookcase. So if our listeners out there understand what I'm talking about, they know what I'm talking about. So that's that's the one thing in this world that I want to see and do is I want to go to the Anne Frank house and see the bookcase. And now I feel like I got the confidence to do it. But you know what, Dan? How about YouTube?
Yeah,
Serious. That's done
exactly.
this. Who you said that earlier in this episode about who would have thunk it when you buy a firewood processor and 2 years later you get invited to Finland to tour their facility.
That is quite the remarkable journey, or like the path that paved forward. And
Yeah.
yeah, YouTube,
Uh-huh.
crazy.
When I bought my Japa, I had a grand total of 0 videos posted on YouTube. And I had just met Bob. He had brought it down and delivered it to me, and we got it all set up. It was one of his first ones. So, he wanted to come along with it, and it was going to be a learning experience for him too. And he had said, he says, "Hey, if you want to do a video of it and put it on YouTube, I'll put it on my website." And that's how the idea got started. And that's when my daughter got sent home from college for the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then who would have known? The machine was fascinating for people to look at because it was different. And look what happened.
Look, look what happened. Exactly. I think it's. I
Yeah,
think. I think it's a great story, and it's just another. I think it's just another chapter in, the great novel that you were putting together here with everything with Ohio
well,
Woodburner.
yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. Um, so I don't want to sound weird here or anything, but I value my friendships more, and that's where I'm so glad to have met you, and a bunch of other people too. But I've always valued our friendship, which would have never have occurred if not
Again,
for
yes, YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, and so I had posted a video about that too, and I was kind of mushy, but I was being sincere. I wasn't making this up. When I was there, I wasn't there by myself. I was there. Every single subscriber to my channel was on my mind the whole time I was there, because I wouldn't have been there without them. Serious.
Right.
Had this channel devolved into one of these inappropriate, cussing and comments and politics and this and that and stuff, an organization like Japa would have never, considered asking me to come over there.
Right.
And it's because of the character of the subscribers and the channel and all. And that's what, I wanted to come through for everyone also while I was there. I feel like I got a tremendous opportunity here, and I am not going to let you guys down.
Wow. Just keep
Yeah.
piling that pressure on top of yourself. I tell you. No, but that's completely 100% true. Like you said, without your subscribers, without people watching the videos,
Yeah.
the videos wouldn't have been, they wouldn't have done what they did. They wouldn't be what they are. But then again, what's in the video is, you. So you have to accept that, there's a little bit more to it's not just a video. It's you and Ohio Woodburner. That's what I think is the big, it makes it all come together.
Well, thank you. But that's what everyone always says, just be yourself. And that's my biggest problem. That's what's holding me back here, people. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I enjoyed watching the video. I've enjoyed hearing all about it. I'm sure there's many more stories we can probably tell, maybe off air. But I would just say it was awesome to see, and I'm glad that you were able to take the opportunity and go and see where your machine was made.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And I just had a blast. And I hope it came through in the videos and me explaining everything here on this episode of the Wood Hounds podcast.
The #1 firewood podcast in the world.
Yeah. Well, all Dan, right. What do you say we strike up the band and let's go find ourselves some Finnish beverage?
Yeah, I'm all for that. That sounds good. But none of this bland food. I'd rather just stick with the beverages. Let's see what we can find.
Yep. Okay. Chicken wings and burgers for everyone.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Wood Hounds. Don't forget, you can also check us out now on YouTube, the Wood Hounds podcast on YouTube. Go ahead, look it up. Click that subscribe button. We have some fun things coming down the line, so hopefully you'll be tuned in and subscribed to be a part of it.
And Dan and I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Wood Hounds and making us the #1 firewood podcast in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we want to wish everyone
a great day.